My name is Mario García Torres, born in Monclova, Coahuila, and I live in Mexico City. My work here at the Pérez Art Museum is titled RR and the Expansion of the Tropics. It's not a work of art that I just brought to the museum, but there are a number of things that seem to be not make any sense together, but hopefully through the show they start to make a number of points. And I was always sort of surprised about the fact that somehow we always saw Robert Rauschenberg as a New York artist, but nevertheless he spent more time in Florida than in New York, because everybody knew that he lived here, but that was about it. We knew that he had a little workshop, that some artists had come to work with him in this Captiva island in his house, but nobody knew really what was he doing and what was, more importantly, what was his relationship to Florida. So the first thing I did in this journey was to try to come and see his state. And from then on, it kind of started to develop a whole story and a whole narrative about who he was and who he was in Florida, which was a whole different character than he was in New York. I brought this Rauschenberg to the gallery, donated to the museum, which is a very, very modest piece by Rauschenberg, but I donated that. And everything around, every other object and every other gesture in the gallery has to do with me trying to relate, trying to explain myself why this piece of Rauschenberg happened. It was a commission by the Miami Herald, who commissioned him to create the cover for their Sunday magazine, for the last Sunday magazine of the 1970s. So it's really interesting that, of course, we have in the back, we have the Miami Herald building being destroyed, but all this story, in a way, it's a neighborhood story. It's not only about Florida, it's not only about the ideas of the tropics, which is very important for the exhibition. It's an argument that I'm making, but it's also a very local story, something that happened between Captiva and this place. So when you come in, the first thing, you will see every day's weather, the forecast for that day that you're coming in, but not from December 5th or December 10th from this year, but from 1979. Next thing you see is a number of journalistic images that are all the journalistic images that I could find that were published in newspapers in Florida in 1979. It's a way for me to try to picture what was Rauschenberg living, what was in the newspapers at the time that he was asked to make something else for the newspaper again. Then there is a film I made about a very specific structure that he owned and where he used to go to think. It's a fish house that is built on top of the water in Captiva Island, which was not used as a house, but just as a hangout. It also replicates architecturally this building, which I really thought it was really interesting. So there are many sort of tiny little relationships and tiny little details that make up, hopefully, this narrative. One idea that is very important here is to try to think about the tropics in a different way. From '79 on, Florida has been politically changing very much. In 1979, Florida realized the fact that there was a lot of drugs from the south coming through here, that there was a different immigration coming through here. So I think my concern is to try to think that image that we have, that image that Florida has been portraying for years, which has to do with people fishing and people volleyballing in the beach, is not the truth. And that image has to be changed, and that image, or at least has to be expanded. So let's think about, let's define ourselves, our context, and let's think about who we are through our daily life and not through geographic or political concepts.